Again, I really want to be clear. I really don't think you're going to like my opinion on this, but let's get in. Let's see what he says first, and we shall go in and talk about things.
I am incredibly compelled by Ashes of Creation. Insanely so. Enough that we built a secondary Discord for our guild in Ashes of Creation. I built an entire system of government. We have all of our officers and council set up already for it. I was an EVE Online player for 15 years. I ran 1,200 players as the largest Triglavian alliance in the game. And I'm doing the same thing in Ashes of Creation. The reason why I find the game to be so compelling is because I think it solves a lot of the problems that EVE Online has. I think that their management of the servers is really good. The only thing that I am concerned about, there are two pieces I'm concerned about, and I've been giving feedback to the devs about this, is I'm concerned that they don't have enough counterplay for spies, which EVE Online has great counterplay for spies, and the other...
Okay, that's a good point. I've heard actually a lot of PvPers and a lot of very much the PvP and spy network or even mercenary guilds talk about this. But this is my opinion on that particular bit of feedback. Is this is why we need to actually play the game, and I think this is another problem with trying to figure out Ashes on paper. Because there actually could be some interplay there, like once we actually get in the game and actually start messing around with these systems. But without doing that, it's really hard to say like definitively or like, oh yeah, there's just not enough spy entry stuff, right? Where no one's playing, you know what I mean? Or I would say a very small subset of people is currently playing, which is our pre-alpha 2 people, pre-alpha 2 people, alpha 1 people, and even Phoenix Initiative. But that is something I do hear a concern a lot from very much PvPers, is the spy intrigue stuff.
The other one is I'm concerned that they don't realize how many people are going to be playing on these servers. So guild sizes are too small. Right now, the maximum guild size is 300 people, even with maximum talents into guilds. I don't think that's going to be enough. Our guild alone, our Discord alone for this, has like 12,000 in it. It's enormous. And I know that we're not going to be the only ones like that. So these are the two. So
I guess to this point, and this is why I think, you know, I know there's a lot of advocates. I talked to Jamie about this very recently when he was on with me. We were just chit-chatting about Ashes. And I mentioned that to him. We talked about the whole guild size thing. I truly think that the whole guild talent system is not going to work the way players want. And I feel like Intrepid's going to have to be forced to buff a lot, because you're not going to get around Discord. You're just not. And the other thing you're not going to get around is min-maxing mentalities, is very organized organizations or guilds like Thor, and creating a kind of council, or even people like Loreforged, or even people like, you know, just people that are very organized and having all the branches of their government, having all of their people. And I feel like, well, if you max it to 300, right, then you're not going to have a lot of power buffs, right? But the thing is that whatever is going to have the most benefit of actual power is going to be what a lot of guilds are going to end up doing. So if you have a 5,000 Discord roster, you know, on a single server, I am sorry, but there's no way you're going to get around a guild of that kind of a roster. Like, and people say like, oh, well, then that guild's going to have to like divide their 5,000 player guild into 300 partitions or whatever, right? Yeah, that's exactly what they'll do. That's exactly what they'll do. Like like in my opinion, is a guild just going to go into the fetal position and realize that, oh, like we have, you know, 5,000 players, but if we create, you know, 4 guilds and make an alliance with all 4 of them, which I believe is the case, right? I think you can have 4 alliances, which make up to 1,200, right? So 300, 300, 300, 300. So that's the thing. Like, they're not going to go into the fetal position and just be like, Ashes wins or Intrepid wins, I guess we can't do anything. No, these people are still going to go and have this large Discord with all of these people, and they're going to start creating all of these alliances to be as dominant as possible on a server. Now, we could all, make an assumption, or we can all like think to ourselves, oh, well, if they start like dividing themselves out, right, then you're gonna have certain, guilds like disintegrate or crumble, or there's gonna be a lot of spies or this or that. And it's like, true, I think that will happen, but then those people will be easily replaced, and then you just keep moving on, right? It's really hard to have, especially if, again, I don't have the history or even the know-how or knowledge of EVE Online. I've never played EVE Online, but he just said that he was the largest running guild on EVE Online, his guild. So do you think his guild, which, again, I don't know the geopolitical nature of EVE Online, but there was a lot of it. There was a lot of very much risk versus reward in that game. His guild didn't crumble. So what's going to happen then? And this is my whole problem with, people saying, because I remember Jamie saying like, well, I think it's good because it's going to create a lot of drama, like with only creating and I just don't think that's truly going to be the case. Like all the really big, very efficient min-maxer guilds, they're going to come up to the challenge and be like, oh, okay, so 300 is our max. Let's do that. Or you'll even have like the true hardcore people be like, oh, well, if we subset our people into 50 player guilds and get the most amount of power from the guild talent system, then we can really wreck some shop. So we're just going to do that instead. And you're going to have like a certain guild, like Thor's guild, like let's say we call him Pirate Thunder. Pirate Thunder is going to have 52 guilds on their server. All, maximizing the guild talent system, all in unison with each other on Discord, all doing the stuff that, they're all going to be in communication with each other and how they're going to go and do something. I'm sorry, but I definitely think that's a realistic and very possible outcome. So in this whole idea of like, well, you're not going to be able to, like, this talent system is supposed to obfuscate these smaller guilds from becoming completely useless. Well, again, Discord already does that. The fact that you can already organize your entire guild and your roster on Discord and get everybody all in the same accord into how you're going to do a certain attack plan already circumvents that. So it's definitely, again, it's going to be one of those things that it's going to be interesting to see, but I think if you're wanting Ashes to be that kind of guild, or that kind of game where small guilds have a chance, I think in certain ways, I don't think they are on certain servers. Like again, if you're in the server against Pirate Software, I think you're going to have a very hard time dismantling his guild. Right. And again, you're going to have a lot of other very massive guilds that are going to be completely unorganized, that are going to be completely under the most dumb, officer leadership or just leadership in general. And they think they know what they're doing. They think they don't know what they're doing. So it's all about like how you orchestrate it. Right. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm completely like, I haven't seen chat. Let me see. We will hold multiple nodes. They will create many nodes and work together. Yeah, completely agree. I think this guy is under the impression it's one mega server. He's not aware of the server size. Oh, what's up, Rockta? How you doing, dude? It's not 50K registered from the start, which is important. That's also true. And let me see. It's worded weird for me, to be honest. Let me see. It doesn't circumvent the reward structure, though. Well, the reward is getting what you want from a huge guild. So, like, as, again, in mass numbers, you're going to be able to accomplish the things you're going to want to. Like, that's just a fact. Like, I don't know how a small, only a 300 player guild is going to go up against thousands of players that are all under the same accord, under the same, Discord, all following the same rules. Like, I don't know how you're going to circumvent that. Let me see. When you have those guilds of that size on one server, it will just make Ashes into a PvE MMO, as you aren't going to fight internally all the time. Well, and this is the thing. Like, I'm really curious how it's realistically going to play out on certain servers. And I think this is the whole, whether you believe me or not, or whether you think this isn't going to happen or not, like, I just feel like big guilds are going to still be an issue in Ashes. Like, that's just how big guilds, people told me all the time, oh yeah, massive guilds just, wrecked in Lineage 2 or in Arcage. Well, of course. Absolutely. Right? So it's just one of those things that, like, again, you're not going to be able to circumvent very organized leadership in these massive guilds. They're going to do what it takes to win. And that's just fact. My point is, servers won't be 50K because they will be online on it. They will be filled at the most of the time, and if filled, they won't increase the register cap. Well, and that's the thing with a guild or like a server like Pirate Software, because if Pirate Software just goes on a server with just his own people, what kind of fun are you really going to have? Like, then it truly is just a PvE game, at that point. Unless, Pirate is going to want to go onto multiple servers and try to conquer multiple servers and split his guild out that way. But I think even if he takes like 3,000 of his players into one server, I think, again, there's a lot of other guilds besides Pirate Software that I think are very organized that have about the same amount of roster for Ashes. Time zones and dead accounts, that's why it's not 50K. 50K, it's 15. And as to some players won't play, they increase it so new players can register. It won't be 50K at the start. It will create insane queues. Yes, Snickers, you're totally right. Like, it's not, I believe at the very start, it's only going to be a max concurrence of 15,000 players. So, and there's a lot of massive guilds like Thor and just other guild leaders that I've talked to that are afraid that their whole guild won't be able to go on the server because it'll be capped. It'll be full. So what's going to happen to the rest of your guild? I think that's going to also force guilds into thinking, well, should we be on multiple servers? Should we try to be on multiple servers? I don't know. Like, this is the whole realistic issue that I think a lot of guild leaders are going to be facing when Ashes inevitably releases. Let's keep watching.
Two big pieces of feedback I have for them, but like, no, we have a full system of governance to add value. The way that we ran Strybog is the same. So the idea is that you have a head council that helps run the entirety of the guild. Then you have officers that run different sections. So we have a Ministry of Acquisition. They obtain materials. Ministry of Production, they handle all of the creation of goods out of those materials, and also your repair and things like that. Ministry of Violence, which is for killing. It's great. They're good at that. And then the Ministry of Truth, which is our propaganda and HR wing. They're our spy network and our propaganda generation, which you need in a large organization like this. Also, the Ministry of Truth does not exist. That's important to understand. So with that in mind, each of these different guilds has an officer. So our ministries has an officer each. They run that mini guild. Then you have a number of seekers that are contracted employees of that section of the guild. Let's say you need to move from one side of the map to the other side of the map with all of your goods, and you're likely going to get PvP'd. You're probably going to die and lose all your. So what you do is you go to the Ministry of Violence, you put in a ticket. The officer of Ministry of Violence hands this ticket to a seeker. You pay an amount of money to that seeker, a percentage that goes to the guild, and then they form a PvP group and they escort you across the map. You get a better deal because you're inside the guild. This allows us to have inter-guild economy, and also for people within the guild to give quests to other people in the guild effectively. We did the exact same thing in EVE Online. In social sandbox games, your guild is made or broken based on the amount of content you can generate for your players. This system allows us to generate quests for our players.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is that, like, the little illustration he gave, if you were watching, again, like Loreforge's presentation when they unveiled their guild and their design and everything like that, it's very par for the course. Again, if you are trying to be very strategically organized and you have the mass numbers behind you, and this is going to be, I think, an issue with certain big streamers like Pirate Software that is taking the game actually seriously. And then you're gonna have other streamers like maybe like Asmongold that's just, oh yeah, let's go into Ashes, let's see if we can wreck shop or whatever, and they're just gonna throw Zerg bodies, right? But that'll only go so far, especially if you're not really being organized, right? And I think it's those guilds that people think, oh yeah, those guilds might fail. Yeah, of course. Like if you look at Olympus, when Asmon had his guild Olympus on Classic, like he had like 12 Olympus guilds. I would say almost 80% of them all imploded and just disbanded because of a lot of drama, right? Again, it's all about the leadership that you have underneath those banners for your guild. Thor is not a dumb person by any means. I think he's going to be very strategic and very smart as to who his officers or who his council is going to be underneath him, especially if he's going to take this game seriously. And especially if he already has the reputation of already doing this in a very public, like PvP, like risk it all kind of game, like EVE Online. So people are probably joining his guild knowing that he already has the background. He's already done this before. So as long as I'm in his guild and as long as whatever he tells us what to do, we do it. You know? So I truly think like this is what's going to happen. And I don't think any kind of guild system, and what I mean by a guild system, I mean the guild talent system. No guild talent system is going to save just a 300-person guild from standing a chance against pirate software at that point. Like, I think in some ways you'll have certain systems that are going to be capped, right? Like maybe like a node siege or a castle siege, right? Which that's definitely feedback. I've talked to Burns about it, Ashes of Relation, or I'm sorry, the Copium Clinic. I always want to say Ashes of Relation. But there's a lot of feedback. Like I said, once we get in there and once we practically start playing these systems, you know, there are some things that are on paper that I kind of don't jive with. And there's other content creators that don't jive with it at all either, but we got to play them first. We got to see how these systems are realistically going to play, and then we can actually leave feedback accordingly. To me, it's always a little dangerous leaving feedback on a system or on a, you know, in a game that I'm not even playing, right? So I think a lot of us are trying to be as strategic as possible. And that's why I think, you know, it's just a lot of fun for certain players or certain people to play Ashes of Creation on paper, which is, you know, like us content creators going to the wiki and we're talking about certain systems and thinking like, oh, how is this going to work? Like, or what problems this is going to have. But yeah, I think, you know, guild size is not like, especially the guild talent system. I know a lot of people talk about this guild talent system and how that's going to go. And I think regardless of how that goes, you're not going to stop a guild that is very organized to dominating. You're just not. Unless the game has certain restrictions of player count in certain systems. That to me is the only way a guild can have, even like a small guild can have actually like stand a chance against a guild like Pirate Software's guild. Wizzy, dude, oh my God, thank you so much for the sub. It's so good to see you. I haven't seen you so long. I hope you're doing well. Let me see, it's only beneficial in Node Wars, right? Well, that's what I mean, right? There are certain systems that are uncapped, right? Like Node Wars, you can just go in and just wreak havoc, right? But into like a node siege where potentially it's going to be like, you know, 500 versus 500, or maybe more realistically like 250 versus 250, you know, that's going to be capped, right? And we don't know yet how the distribution of those attackers or defenders are going to be. Like, we don't know because we haven't played, right? We are still in very much the foundational stages of seeing, does this system work as intended? Is there any fundamental flaws and bugs and stuff like that? I think we're really not going to broach the kinds of feedback of getting certain, you know, like, oh, well, this guild, when like, because again, if Intrepid hard caps like massive guilds to where like only a portion of your guild can sign up for a castle or node siege, how would guilds feel about that? I think a lot of guild leaders would be actually really upset. They're like, what are you telling me? Like only 20 of my members can sign up for a castle siege and that's it? Like, that's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Intrepid could do something like that. Or they can just let it be free for all. But then I think also guild leaders wouldn't like that either. I think there's going to be many systems in Ashes of Creation that it's going to be hard for Intrepid to find where should our line be, because either way are going to make people upset, right? But I think if you can give people the rationale reasoning of why we made this decision, I think people will still be upset, but at least now we actually know the rationale behind it, right? Let me see, a guild that size dies off on a server will cause the server to die for everyone else on the, yeah, 100%. 100%. Like because if you're too dominant on a server, I think a lot of the more realistic people or the realistic guilds are going to be forced to just server transfer or start over completely somewhere else. Because they're like, look, like we can't take someone like this guild, right? And so we're just going to go somewhere else. So now you have this huge, massive guild that has like 5,000 players in it. And now and then everyone else just either plays super lackadaisically or casually on that server. And then that massive guild is only either infighting with themselves and no one else. And they get bored and that server just dies off. That's very realistically what could happen too. Being too large can be a problem, like bloatware is a problem. Absolutely. But again, even limiting, right? Because again, Intrepid is limiting the guild size to 300. But I just feel like that's not going to solve the major issue of Discord and just the mass organization that already brings to guild leaders. Because Discord, you can have 100,000 people in a Discord, right? So if you tell everybody to log into your server and to do something, like they can do it. So this is where I'm really wondering as to like how certain guild leaders or organizations like Thor are going to be like, well, man, maybe we should actually start pruning. Like maybe we should be smaller. I don't know if some guild leaders are going to make that kind of decision because there's always safety in numbers, right? I think we can all kind of agree like that, right? It should be capped for sure, but like 100 to 150 players. Well, I feel like that to me isn't going to help out either, because again, you have very organized guilds. They're going to be like, if the guild talent system provides really good power buffs, being around 50 to 100 players, you're going to have very big guilds like 5,000, 3,000, 2,000 player guilds, all just subdividing their people to be from 50 to 100 players to get those maximum buffs. That's what you're going to do, you know? And then you're going to have like 5 or 8 alliances with just yourself, basically. So it's just that min-max mentality. Like that's what I think you're not going to, what you're going to try to circumvent from people. So I think it's just a matter of like, if you want to have a guild size that big, there's certain systems where you can just dominate, but I think there's other systems that are very much like a huge risk versus war, like a castle or node siege, that could just be like, even though you have like this massive guild, but if you subdivide it to where a guild can only have 20 members, sign up to your guild to a node siege or whatever. Well, if Pirate Software does that and he has 52 or 55 guilds that make up the Pirate Thunder, guild, then all of his people can basically go into the castle or node siege. Right? So that's the issue. Like I said, because anything that you can think of, there's already going to be players who are going to try to circumvent the system. They're going to try to break the system as much as they can. So I don't know. Well, let's keep watching.
Incredibly important to do that. Otherwise, you just run out of to do because it's a social sandbox MMO. And that's the important part with this. So we ran it really lean in EVE. Like, I didn't make any wealth off of the guild at all, like most of the officers didn't, unless we were out there in the trenches doing, and we just poured it all back into the guild and everyone became rich because we did that. We did it as a flat system, and as long as you were engaging with stuff, you got to make money. And it was great. It actually worked out really awesome, so I want to do it again. The reason we chose Strybog was because it's the Slavic god of wind and wealth was the whole point with it, so it was like quick cash is sort of the whole joke with it, and we had a whole thing with it. It was great. It actually worked awesome. It was really cool. This is the important part, is to generate in-guild economy and to do stuff, and we built the whole structure out. Everything's already ready to go, and we've got all the officers and everything in place. So part of us wants, at least in the Alpha 2 that's coming up, we want to make California dwarves, which are these like beach dwarves, so we can have a contingency of beach dwarves that are like really good at surfing, which I thought would be hilarious. Rock and sand. Oh man, rock and sand. What happens if the guild is full? That's what we're hoping the devs change, because 300 is quite small when you're talking about the scale of a game that this is. And if they're only doing like one server for all of North America, you're not going to have guilds of 300 size. Yeah, you're just not. you're going to have massive guilds. And you're talking like you need to have guild size of up to like 15,000 sort of a thing. And like we will build systems to maintain those on our end. They don't have to all be in the game. And then you need an alliance structure system so that you can manage smaller guilds that are more focused. Because the idea is that generally a guild will have like a talent tree, and that talent tree will then go and allow them to become a larger guild or a more focused guild. So a larger guild just has numbers, right? More people. And a more focused guild may give benefits to certain types of crafters. So these are the two ways that the game goes right now. The problem is the numbers one just gives you up to 300 people, and the benefits one just lets you have 30. So it's like, it's a little small. It's a very...
Wait a minute. So I feel like I missed something. Like, did he say guild sizes should inevitably go up to 15,000? Is Thor under the impression that it is actually... there are no servers? He thinks Ashes of Creation is just this mega server you're going to log into? Let me see. He thinks it's one realm in total. Ooh, yeah. He thinks there are no servers. Oh, okay. Was EVE Online that way? Again, I don't know. I've never played EVE Online, but was EVE Online not... like, was EVE Online kind of like a mega server in a sense? Okay, that's probably what his mode of thinking is, because he's thinking it's going to be like EVE. No. Well, and maybe this will change his opinion, because maybe he was thinking like, oh, because again, if you have like the frame of mind thinking it's going to be this huge mega server that millions of people are going to be able to play on, then his assumptions are kind of correct, right? If you don't have like a 15,000 player guild, like that's going to be kind of problematic in a game where realistically millions of people are going to be playing. But we know that's not the case, right? So I think if once he finds out that, oh, like I don't have the correct information, and he figures out that each realm is going to have 8 to 10,000 players, and then a max of 15,000 players concurrent, then I think his plans could shift. That's what I think. I think it was just like a misunderstanding, but let me see. We'll see. Even if there were to be mega servers, I feel like he's missing the point of how Intrepid wants people to interact outside of their own community. Well, again, the way people interacted in EVE was very much like on this massive scale. I've had a couple of my friends that played EVE, and it was just, there was so many discords and people just going in and just all playing this game at a huge scale. I mean, even when I remember seeing that video of what happened back in like, what was it, 2016, that huge battle that costed almost like $500,000 or something, like of real money that was lost, of all the ships that got destroyed. I mean, that's insane. Yeah, it's the way the devs announced the server system by saying one realm. A lot of people thought that meant mega servers. Yeah, I think, and this is the thing too, like big streamers like Pirate and like Asmongold, I don't think watch a lot of the content that like myself or Jamie or Richie or, whatever. I think Narc is really the only one that gets any kind of a viewership for the larger MMO audience. And so, again, this is the problem with telephone, right? You hear something and then you think, oh, okay, this is the truth now. And then you start telling your friends, and then the information just disintegrates into being worser and worse and worse and worse. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. It happened with Asmon misinterpreting the word one realm. It looks like Pirate Software is also under that same assumption. Yeah, 100%. I just think it's weird that he has a server with 12K people, but never looked into server size. Well, and again, you have a lot of people aren't paying very close attention to Ashes yet. This is not realistic to a lot of people yet. Until they have a game that's downloaded that they can double click on and log into, this is what I've been calling the calm before the storm. There's a lot of people like Pirate Software that are actually, wait, you're going to see him, you're going to see Summit, you're going to see Asmongold, you're going to see them reacting to a lot of different Ashes creators during when Ashes is live, because they're trying to find out this information. And you'll have people going into the Ashes wiki and trying to figure it out there. There's going to be many, 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 many streamers, big streamers, that are going to be trying to figure out this information, because again, they're going to want to succeed, and they're going to figure out like, oh wow, this game has a lot of moving parts to it comparatively to other MMOs that are super simplistic. You can see EVE Online servers are 300,000 with concurrent being 40,000. Wait, 300,000 with the concurrent being, I think you meant 400,000. You can see with a map size of 300 million squared kilometers, Ashes is going to be 50K, map size about 48 squared kilometers. His system is set up for a massive map, and they will need to cut their operation by so much to fit the map size. Yeah, 100%. Like, I think once he finds out that, oh, there's actually going to be multiple servers, and, you know, he figures out the concurrent size of those, I think his plans would definitely change. Or maybe they won't. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. ESO is still layered, though, and was a few years back. It's just weird that 12K players haven't told him. Dude, last time I saw Pirate Software streaming, he was streaming to like 64,000 players. Like, he has massive streams. And so you try to follow a chat that's moving at light speed. You know what I mean? So, and most of the streamers that are like him don't really look at chat like often, because it just moves so fast. It's just like the only person I've ever really seen interact with chat that often is like Asmongold. But he just, like, he'll just see one thing and just, he'll talk about that, you know, while there's like hundreds of chats he's just completely missing. So here, let's finish it out.
Very, very tiny thing if you don't go towards numbers. So I think it's too tiny. Ashes of Creation is a game I'm going all in on. And to be real with you, I'm going to be honest, the game might not work. The game may suck, right? It may absolutely be ass, but they have everything that I have ever seen for them to design it the right way to make this not
100%. This is why all of us are here. This is why I am here, because I think there are going to be systems that just aren't going to work as intended or are not going to be fun. And it's going to be up to us to make those systems as fun as possible. And there were some things that, like I said, even during the Node War, that was changed, that we didn't see those changes, but PI gave those bits of input to Intrepid, and they did change. There was a lot of powwowing back and forth between the PI testers and Intrepid, and there was a lot of feedback that was given as to making the Node Wars more appealing, more fun. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing on a very massive scale when A2 comes out. So, but the fact of the matter is, we have someone like Thor going in and really want to take Ashes seriously. His input, not only as a developer, as a hacker, but just as someone that has come from EVE Online and has like the massive following he has, I think it's going to be so good. Like, I can't wait. I can't wait to see like what he thinks when we get in there, and once we actually start playtesting and stuff like that. I'm super hyped, guys. Like, it was nice to actually see a video from Pirate Software about Ashes of Creation, because I know he really wants this game to succeed. And he's a champion of like indie games and just like, you know, this genre, right? I mean, this genre is like suffering so bad. So the fact that we have people like him, you know, helping us out during A2 is going to be just amazing. I don't know how else to say it.